What is going on, everybody? Enzo here, and some of you may be surprised about the fact that this is being uploaded not on my usual Sunday morning upload days, but instead it is being uploaded on a Wednesday morning. So I did tell you guys back in the 2025 update video, if you haven't seen it, that I do plan on making some changes as to what kind of content I'll do on this channel. That doesn't necessarily mean that I am going to divert away from Final Fantasy, because that is still sort of the origins of this channel lore wise, but I always wanted to dabble in different kinds of content in recent time. Yes, you guys saw in my most recent upload, I did a quiz video called Who Wants to Be a Gillionaire, which is based on the trivia show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but Final Fantasy X edition. If you guys haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. This series, I want to post it once a week, every Wednesday morning, sort of just talking to myself in my little corner here. So as you guys can see in the title, it is going to be called Enzo's Corner, because it is my little corner in YouTube where there are so many channels, and I do appreciate you guys taking the time to come chat with me, just come hanging out here and listening to my story. You know what? That might be better. I might actually call it Listen to My Story, but I don't want to make it sound commanding, if that makes sense, but I think just from a thematic standpoint, that might be a better title for this name. I'll come up with one once it comes around, but essentially it's just going to be me yapping about different story topics. It could be Final Fantasy related, it could be non-Final Fantasy related. I will have timestamps on the video so you guys can pick and choose which parts of the podcast, I guess we'll call it, that you want to listen to more than others. Again, it's not just going to be Final Fantasy. I could just be rambling on about my other interests, sort of any projects I'm working on, if any of you are interested, or maybe even have some input that you want to add to that conversation. I'll definitely be taking a look at those comments. So I figured the first segment I could do with this mini podcast series is the origins of the channel. Why did I start a YouTube channel in the first place? This channel's been around for a few years now, but I feel like I've kept it. It feels like the way I've been approaching it has been one where it's like I've just been trying to keep it afloat instead of actually trying to grow it. Now, I'm someone who likes to dabble in a lot of interests. I feel like I'm not one that can stick to just one thing and kind of ride it on for the long term. That's why I always thought that my super long-term plans for this channel weren't just going to be restricted to Final Fantasy. Like, even after I play and get accustomed to all of the lore and all of the gameplay and all of the mechanics of every Final Fantasy, I don't see it being part of my really long-term plans. I do want it to be sort of a central point, but I don't just want to make it purely lore videos, even though that is where the majority of you guys come from and why you guys subscribe to the channel. Back in 2020, I want to say 2023, we're going a little bit back here. I used to work for some content project with CD Projekt Red. Not for their Witcher series, it was for the card game that was part of the mini game called Gwent. Now, I'll be honest, when it comes to card games, cards get updated, especially if they don't have physical versions. They get updated all the time. So a lot of those videos get outdated. So I wanted to make videos that people could watch in like years from now and could still be relevant. And so I didn't come up with it. Someone actually came up to me and he recorded a lore video for one of the characters in the Witcher universe and kind of told me to just he didn't actually directly come to me, but he did ask if anyone was willing to collab with him on that project. And I chose to do it because I thought it was something interesting. It was something new, something I've never done before. So I thought I'd give it a shot. So we listened to it, and I could tell that he has a great storytelling voice. Like, back then, I never thought myself as a storyteller. I always thought I was going to be the guy from behind the scenes, just editing videos, but not actually speak directly to a camera. So we had sort of that working relationship where he was the one telling the story, being able to dynamically project his voice so that it fits the narrative, and I would just be the one matching it using a combination of audio, graphics, effects, etc. And that was actually successful. We uploaded, I want to say, between 10 and 20 videos, and those got decently good views. They were upwards of between 500 to 1,000, which to me at the time, well, it still kind of is now, is a lot of views. And it was on a channel that only had a handful of subscribers, about 100 to 200. So the fact that you were able to produce views that are 5 times the amount of subscribers you have does say a lot about the quality of that kind of content. The game died. Well, I shouldn't say the game died. The servers are still live, but they have now entered maintenance mode. And for those of you out there who are familiar with the TCG universe or the TCG genre, when a game enters maintenance mode, they are essentially in purgatory. It means there are no support for them in terms of new DLC, new cards, and only the servers are left alive so that the players who are diehard fans of the games can just play online, but there will be no updates, there will be no support from the developer, at least as of right now. Who knows what can happen in the future? But usually when a game enters maintenance mode on the TCG universe, it's in purgatory. And it makes it really hard for people to stick around and want to keep playing when something like that happens. So I did end up leaving, and at that time was when I just started this channel, actually. Most of you will still know it as F2 Worlds because I recently just changed the name to Enz0's Plays because I wanted it to reflect more of me as opposed to the niche storytelling that I do for Final Fantasy. It was around that time that the Yu Yevon video came out, and I wasn't expecting my Yu Yevon video to do as well as it's currently doing. I believe it is currently at around 40,000 views, which is a lot, and it still is mind-boggling to me about how we reached that far. A lot of the other Final Fantasy X lore videos I've created, the High Aeons video, some of my alternate timeline series video where I literally come up with an alternative timeline if a certain event changes in the game. And it has to be fan fiction because there's no coverage for it in gameplay or any of the developers talking about it, so it's purely fan fiction. Hence why it's called alternate universes. And I always love the conversations that brings up, the debates that come up, because not everyone will agree with how that goes because of certain events or certain factors that may or may not happen that affect the overall timeline. That is a concept that was inspired to me because I personally myself, I watch a lot of lore videos of people and channels covering other universes. So we're talking the Lord of the Rings universe, we're talking the Harry Potter universe, Star Wars universe. Those universes are very, very expansive, and those channels tend to do very well because there's so many topics that you can cover. At the same time, there are a lot of channels that cover those universes for that exact reason. So when I chose to do something niche like Final Fantasy, only a handful of channels covered them. You're looking at Final Fantasy Union, you're looking at Night Sky Prince. So those are sort of the big ones in the Final Fantasy community. You also have a couple of smaller ones, but for the most part, YouTube channels that know Final Fantasy don't tend to make it their central franchise. And it's more like a bonus or an add-on as opposed to their main thing. I am sort of in that boat where I am making a decision whether or not I want to make it my main thing or if I want to divert to other universes and sort of kind of decide what this channel really is going to be about. I want to do a little bit of a mix of both, which again is going to be hard because I am quite aware that niche topics and very specific videos does improve growth by quite a bit. At the same time, I want to make sure that I am enjoying the kinds of videos I put out on this channel. And while Final Fantasy X, on its own, it's a great game with a great universe and a great story, it is a small fish in a massive pond of this franchise called Final Fantasy. So I wanted to introduce other parts of the franchise that I really enjoyed. For those of you who don't know, or maybe have missed it on the streams that I've done for Final Fantasy X and 12, Final Fantasy 12 is my favorite Final Fantasy of all time. It is actually not Final Fantasy X. The reason why I started with Final Fantasy X is because it's the game I played the most. I've played this game pretty much when I first moved here from the Philippines back in 2005. I didn't get introduced to Final Fantasy 12 until about 3 years later. And that was also a time where I got really into Star Wars. So that sort of merger between Star Wars and Lord of the Rings kind of fit well together to turn Final Fantasy to become Final Fantasy 12. And I really enjoyed that game and I played it just as much as Final Fantasy X. But when you're thinking of how the franchise works in Final Fantasy, this is public knowledge to most of us, that it is not a continuous timeline. So Final Fantasy 11 doesn't follow 10, Final Fantasy 12 doesn't follow 11, etc. They all fall under very different universes. And I'm happy that Final Fantasy VII right now is in the midst of a retelling series. So Final Fantasy Rebirth just came out last year, or is it 2 years ago? I can't remember now. No, last year. It was last year. So we are getting the last of the trilogy for Final Fantasy VII, in which I can fully complete the Final Fantasy VII playthrough. I do watch gameplay of the original Final Fantasy VII. I do not play it myself because I am currently in a backlog on so many other games that I have not played, but I have obtained. A lot of them have been through PlayStation Plus for free, just because I want to sort of expand my knowledge of not just the lore, but also the gameplay aspect of it. For those of you who don't know, well, this is probably something I'm just revealing for the first time here. I am dabbling into programming and game design because I want to see if I can ship my own game within the next 3 years. So when I told you at the beginning of the video that I am someone who dabbles in a lot of interests and a lot of projects, I'm not kidding. So that's also another reason why I wanted to make this podcast, was because I want to sort of have an avenue where I could let it all out. I could share it with as many of you who watch this video as possible. And who knows, maybe some of us share the same interest, or maybe you have some advice or some input. Put it all in the comment section below. I will be happy to read and reply to those, because I am really interested to see your guys' take on some of these things. Yeah, I'm dabbling in the game design aspect. I have been working on some concepts. I have it all written down on paper. Maybe one of my future episodes is me sharing it with you guys, just to see what you guys think of it. And maybe if you have some ideas on what I can implement with it story-wise, that would be awesome. With this channel becoming, I still want to have close ties with Final Fantasy, but I am looking to slowly divert it into sort of my own personal gaming channel. So this will be where most of my gaming stuff will come from. And as slowly we go on with the videos here, you guys will start learning about other games that I enjoy playing. So right now, currently, I am playing through Ghost of Tsushima. I just recently finished playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag for the second time. Still my favorite Assassin's Creed of all time. And now we are entering Ghost of Tsushima. And Ghost of Tsushima is a really fun game. Came out 2023. I can't believe I never played it until literally 2 years later. I think my favorite part about RPG games and why it's become my go-to genre of gaming is because I love exploring everything around it. Not just the gameplay, not just the combat, not just those technical things, but how the world is created, what sort of timeline it falls under, and how the characters' interaction with the environment affects the impact of the story. These are factors that made me feel very captivated towards Final Fantasy X when I first played it all those years ago, and why I have made it my first title on the channel in terms of what lore videos I'm going to cover first. Again, you guys have seen some one-off, or I like to call one-shot lore videos, where I cover characters and events from other games. So a few years ago, I covered Dual Magus from Dragon Quest VIII, which is sort of Square Enix's sister title to Final Fantasy. Those are the two main gaming franchises that have done very well for Square Enix, and I am a big fan of Dragon Quest. I recently finished Dragon Quest XI not too long ago. It is such a fun game, and I finished also Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. These are all games I could dabble into separately. So if those are games that you guys have played, let me know what you guys think of them. And sort of that kind of, it's very similar to Pokemon, where you're capturing monsters from the Dragon Quest universe and you're pretty much sending them out to battle. Only the battle mechanics are a little bit different, but the way the monsters progress is a little bit more complex than Pokemon, I'd say. But the way Pokemon does its progression in terms of leveling up, evolutions, stats, moves, it's very simple, and it has sort of that charm, and which is why Pokemon is the gargantuan of a franchise that it is. That's sort of my little spiel on this first episode. I don't want to go too much. I mostly just wanted to cover the origins of this channel, and I also was really thinking very hard as to what franchise I was going to cover, because I had different options. I was thinking about a lot of different franchises I could cover. I was thinking highly of The Witcher. Okay, so I'm going to start right away with the ones I sort of brushed out too early. So Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter I really considered, because that is a treasure trove of lore, and those are massive universes that were made by J.R.R. Tolkien and J.K. Rowling respectively. But the thing is, so many people do those videos again. All I would be doing is just be repeating and yapping very similar content to what those big and successful channels have already done. So I sort of decided not to go down that route. Same reason with Star Wars as to why I chose not to go down that route either, because even though I'm a big fan of Star Wars, then we started getting into the video game sections where I'm like, you know what? I could probably start doing lore on some universes based on video games as opposed to those that have been popularized on TV or on books. Now, granted, those previous universes I talked about do have video game adaptations of their own. But when you think of something like Lord of the Rings, you don't think about the games. You think about the movies and you think about the books. When you think of Harry Potter, you don't think of the games. You think of the books and you think of the movies. When you look at something like The Witcher, you think of the games. Although for those who are more hardcore fans of The Witcher, they may be more familiar with the books, because chronologically, the books did come out first by Sapkowski. They were just popularized by CD Projekt Red in the West through the video games. So that one you can sort of see it as a bit of a 50-50. Not to mention the adaptation in the games are slightly different from the way it is adapted in the books. The books follow a more chronological path of Geralt of Rivia, whilst the games sort of give you that open world feeling that, in my opinion, revolutionized the way open world RPGs are done, at least in the time that The Witcher 3 came out, because not many video games were able to capitalize on that feeling of the true sense of the open world part of the RPG gaming. So I really thought about The Witcher, and I may still do a couple of Witcher lore videos here and there as one-shot videos, but I sort of decided not to go with that. I kind of wanted to go with something a little bit smaller, as also a way for me to practice my storytelling skills and my video editing skills, which is why I chose to go with Final Fantasy as my starting point in the franchise that I was going to choose to cover. Just like I said, don't be worried. It's not going to be I'm not going to completely brush it off, because there's still plenty of Final Fantasy for us to explore. But again, as someone who likes to explore different hobbies and interests and keeping my mind fresh with new fresh ideas and new fresh of content, I want to make sure that I'm absorbing different types of content every day, so that I could learn more, my mind stays fresh, and I'm not constantly thinking of just the same thing over and over, because I like to think creatively. And I think that YouTube has given me an opportunity to think creatively in terms of the way I edit videos, but more importantly, how I tell them. And this also affects me when I play games in real life too, especially because I'm a big D&D player. So I am currently planning a world for my sister and a couple of her friends that want to play D&D, and they need a GM. So I am going to be taking on that role of GM, and I think it's going to be cool because these are a group of people that I don't normally hang out with. So who knows what that dynamic is going to look like, but I think we're going to have a fun time. So if that is something that you guys want an update on, or even something you guys might want to see on the channel, maybe have one that's Final Fantasy inspired, I could certainly do that. Let me know in the comment section below, and of course, leave a like on this video if you guys want these kinds of more just relaxed, chilling videos where I'm just chatting with y'all, just yapping and just thinking about my thoughts and just letting them out there for y'all to hear and to absorb. If you guys have any of your own inputs, let me know in the comment section as well. I will have timestamps for segments that happen throughout this video, so you can pick and choose which ones seem the most interesting to you. That is going to do it for episode 1 of Enzo's Corner, listening to my story. I appreciate you guys for making it this far in the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content such as this, and lore content as well on the channel. You'll see it all around. And comment on what other topics you guys might want me to cover. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and I'll see you all soon.